Hello and welcome, everyone. We will get started in just a minute, but thank you so much for joining today for an information session looking at the Harvard Chan School's DrPh and PhD programs. All right, a few more folks are joining us, which is great. Thank you for taking some time out of your morning, afternoon, or evening, or wherever, whatever time zone you're in, joining us from around the United States or from around the world. This is one event during the Harvard Chan School of Public Health Virtual Visit Week. So we hope that you've had the opportunity to engage with our community with some of our other events as well. Many of the sessions during this week's virtual visit week will be recorded and posted to our school's website. So if you can't stay for the whole time today, or if there's another session you missed, it's very possible that that session will be recorded and posted to the event webpage. All right, with that, I see we have a good sized group coming in, so why don't we go ahead and get started? My name is Charlie Dill. I work in the admissions office at the Chan School, so I'm really a resource throughout this virtual visit week as well as throughout the year to help you learn more about the school and programs as it relates to what we offer, different fields of study, eligibility criteria, those types of things. So really think of me as well as the admissions team as a resource for you today. This particular session is hosted on the Zoom webinar format, so it's a little bit different than the meeting formats that you might be familiar with. But the way in which you'll communicate with us throughout the session is through the questions and answers box. So that should be located on your webinar side panel or bottom panel, depending how your screen's oriented. And you are welcome to type in any questions you have throughout the session. But to give you an overview, I'm going to have a representative from both the DrPh program as well as our PhD program in population health sciences give us an overview of their program, and then we're going to pivot later to a panel where you can hear more about the student experience in both programs, and you can ask any questions you have of our current students. So without further ado, I will ask my colleague Gary if you would mind popping on camera and introducing yourself to the group, and I will advance to your slide.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Williams, and I'm the Assistant Director of the DrPh program. I have a couple of slides to give an overview of the program, but as Charlie said, I feel as if the student experience is really important and what really drives this type of event. And I'm sure you all have a lot of questions for the students. So with that said, I will get into my first slide. So this is just the introduction of the DrPh program, which states, it prepares professionals for high impact leadership roles in public health and healthcare. And these are through the foundational concepts, the theories, the methods of public health courses that are offered the program. The program is divided up into, excuse me, public health concepts and methods, an enabling change section of courses, which really deal with the leadership framework of the DrPh program. It's a lot of leadership building, really self-reflective as well, with personal mastery as one of the courses that you have to take. And with the difference between the DrPh program and the PhD, the DrPh program is a little more practice-based. So there are certain immersions that are built throughout the 3 years in which students have the opportunity to participate in. And then at the end, your third year is the doctoral project, which is the capstone of the DrPh program. It's where you have your final thesis and your thesis defense. We can go on to the next slide, and I can talk a little bit more about the doctoral project when I get to that slide. So the Enabling Change curriculum. This is to help develop effective public health practitioners, and you're combining traditional research skills and methodologies with innovative thinking and leadership. The 4 pillars of the program are management, communication, innovative thinking, and leadership. So those 4 terms will be used throughout the entire 3 years of the program. Through here, the courses that we have that are in Enabling Change curriculum, as you can see here, they're personal mastery, enabling teams, the enabling large scale change, and there are communications courses that students must take as well. One of the courses is a public speaking course, Arts of Communication, and that's the first semester that you will be taking that course, and that's the summer semester, which is about 6 weeks long. You will also see a couple more communication courses throughout the program in year 2, where students will have a chance to choose between 2 different courses that are requirements for communications. And then we have innovative thinking at the bottom. The faculty director is Rick Segrist. He is very into innovation. He teaches HPM 557, which is an innovation course, and it is a requirement of our program as well. There is an iLab as well that he is affiliated with. So he brings in, he tries to get a lot of our students really acclimated to all types of innovation throughout the program. Next slide, please, Charlie. Oh, thank you, Charlie. Now, field immersion. Field immersion is a time where students will, well, for the first winter field immersion, that is going to be a team-based case development. And that is different from how we normally did our winter sessions. Normally, we had students kind of choose where they would like to go and work for 3 weeks. This is different in that now students will be teamed together, and they will be working at 3 organizations that are picked by the program. And there is going to be a certain set of deliverables that each company would like the students to turn in at the end of your team-based case winter field immersion. So I know this year, students will be working at 3 different companies. Those are going to be Trauma Link. They're going to be working at the AIDS Health Foundation and Healthcare for All in Massachusetts. This goes from year 1, fall 2, until spring 1. Now, in the winter session at that time, you will be, the students will normally work remote. So it's not as if you need to go into a place at that time, but that course does run from fall 2 into the end of spring 1. And then we have the summer field immersion, and this is a time where you get to choose where you would like to go to work with a host organization for 8 to 10 weeks. And students are going to be applying your public health concepts, but you're also going to be doing a lot of mastering of the management, leadership, and communications, as well as innovative thinking. And I also listed at the bottom just a couple of the past summer field immersion projects that have been completed by our students here. And in this picture, you actually will see Ule. So she can actually speak to a little bit more about her experience within field immersion, and she's also in the doctoral project as well. We also have another DrPh student, Rosie Batista. She will also be speaking with you all as well. She's just at the end of her program, so she can give you a full encapsulation of how the program and experience was for her. Next slide, please. The doctoral project. The doctoral project is another place within the DrPh program in which students are going to be doing practical work, practice work. So this is another time where you work at a host organization of your choice. And this is for the entire year 3. I normally do not see any of my students throughout their doctoral project unless they're based in Boston. But you do have the option of doing this project anywhere in Massachusetts. You can go to anywhere in the United States. We do have students who like to do their projects internationally as well. So you have that option there. And the project is supposed to enable students to demonstrate your public health knowledge and skills, but it's all about translating that research into practices or policy. And that is what students will end up doing towards the end in terms of their deliverables, their doctoral thesis, and their reflection report on leadership and enabling change. That is really about the journey of the student. How was their leadership journey? What did they do throughout the program here, how this program may have helped them throughout the leadership journey. Just really a reflective piece. It's not something that's included with the doctoral thesis, but it is a requirement because this is a leadership program. We would like to know about the leadership side of your experience here in the program. The thesis defense is normally 90 minutes long. The first 30 minutes are the actual thesis defense. Then there are about 30 minutes of Q&A between the committee. And then you also have an audience as well. So you have public either on Zoom or in person asking questions. And then at the end of your defense is when you find out if you have passed that part of the defense. Next slide, please. And this, I just wanted to include here because I always get asked, what type of projects can you do in the doctoral program? I wanted to just place a couple of them here. Please just take a quick look at them. A lot of the students decided to either to go back home to where they originally are from to work on their project. And that's why I listed a couple of those here. We have students that wanted to work at the WHO. This person here worked at WHO for their doctoral project and then worked with them after graduation as well. So I try to tell any prospective applicants, when you're doing an immersion, you should probably think about where you would like to end up being. And so that in terms of what host organization you would like to work for, and then what if that host organization is somewhere you want to work after graduation, because there may be a chance that you can do the project there and then have a job after you graduate. Next slide, please. And this is just a little information about where our alumni are now. I did want to update this to find out where our alumni are that just graduated within the past year or so. And as you can see here, some people had worked at the UMass Memorial Healthcare, and now they're working at UMass Memorial Healthcare. So I'll just give a couple seconds for you all to take a look at that. This information is also located on our website. I do like to have this information out for everybody to see. And if you want to see that, you can go to the doctoral project section of our website. We should have all of this listed. And I believe I have it listed from cohorts 1 through about cohort 6 or 7. So you should be able to get a comprehensive look at this information. Next slide. And finally, the requirements of the DrPh program. Very quickly, the program length is 3 years. I would like to state that that is the minimum. We do have students here that have gone on past the 3rd year. That's why there's an option for a 4th year to complete your degree. Sometimes it's just finding the right host organization that you would like to work for that will do the type of project you're looking for. Sometimes data sets, for example, may have changed. Sometimes supervisors may have changed, which will then prevent you from graduating, or excuse me, from completing your thesis in the time frame that you would like it to get done. But you do have the option of the additional year to complete the degree. The eligibility requirements, master's or doctorate degree. This information here for 6 years of full-time public health and/or public service experience in a relevant discipline. When we're looking at that specific requirement, we are looking to see if you have at least at the time of applying, 5.5 years of work experience at the minimum. If you only have about 5 years, I would say wait until you at least have the 5.5 or the 6 years of work experience. When it goes through the process, we're really just seeing what is your work experience, what type of responsibilities you may have had. That type of information is what we're looking for when it comes to the 6 years. And then your application requirements are listed below. The only one that I will like to kind of point out right now are the letters of reference. It's one of the questions I always get asked is, should I submit more than 3? I would say submit 3 that are really, really good, because if you submit a 4th one and it may not be as great or as strong as the other 3, then it may not have been worth having that fourth one. So make sure you have three really strong reference letters from people who really know your work, that can speak in great detail to it. I've also been asked, one last thing, is it acceptable to have more academic references than professional references? I would say that since this is a professional degree, you should probably think about having two professional references and maybe one academic. Two academic and one professional, that is completely fine as well. But the professional side we may be able to see all of the work experience and the leadership abilities you have through that. So just think about that in terms of your letters of reference. And I think that ends my last slide.
Great. Thank you, Gary. And with that, I will pass it over to my colleague, Bruce.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you to the admissions office for having us here, and thank you to Gary for sparring with me again this year. It's always a pleasure. Uh, Thank you for joining us to find out more about the PHS PhD. PHS stands for Population Health Sciences. We'll be referring to that throughout the presentation. I'm joined today by three of our 2024 cohort members, Tabor, Yushin, and Parker, and they'll be talking to you a little bit later during the Q&A, two from the EPI field of study and one from the Global Health and Population field of study. Charlie, if you could change the slide for me. Great. We start out with our application essentials for a few reasons here. The first of which is that our applications are completed via the Harvard Griffin GSAS admissions application, not through the Harvard Chan or SOFIS application. The reason for that is that all PhDs at Harvard are offered through the Griffin Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, whether that's English, Germanic languages, engineering, they all come from the Harvard Griffin School. The other point that is important is that our deadline is December 1st, 2024 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and there are no exceptions to that. And the reason for the no exceptions is because all of the PhD programs at Harvard have the same deadline or a similar deadline, and so it has to be fair across all of the PhD applicants. The one other thing to note is that December 1st is a Sunday this year. That does not change the date of the deadline. The deadline is still December 1st, Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, no exceptions. I'll jump into an overview of our application because this is where I get the most questions coming into our information request box every day, especially around GRE and TOEFL and IELTS, which I'll cover for you. The first part of the application is a 500-word personal statement. The personal statement, to use a bachelor or bachelorette buzzword, is about your journey. It should tell us why you have the impetus to apply to the program, who you are, what brings you to this point in your experience that you want to be a part of the program. It's about you, not about your background in terms of your education or the work you've done. It's more of a personal statement, as it says. The second part is a 1,000-word statement of purpose, which should tell us why Harvard, why population health sciences, why the specific field of study you're interested in, and what experiences bring you to want to continue your education in the program. The third part is a CV or resume, plain enough. The next is a 10-page academic writing sample. The writing sample can be published or not published. It does not need to include your notations in the 10-page count or any sort of reference materials to your 10 pages. It can be a PDF or it can be something that you've written as a thesis or something like that. We don't have any particular preference over which way you submit that. Next is transcripts from all prior higher education courses or institution. And when we say transcripts, we mean unofficial or official. If you are admitted into the program, you'll be asked for your official transcripts by July 1st in the year you're coming in, which following year would be 2025. We ask for 3 recommendations, including from faculty or an advisor who can speak to your research skill. And we have returned this year to requiring the GRE. The reason for this return is we put a hold on it during the COVID-19 pandemic, but we now accept online GREs. We don't require people to go to testing centers to take the GRE. And you can schedule a time literally any half hour via the ETS website to take an online GRE, and it is moderated through your computer screen. The one exception to this is we will also accept an MCAT score in lieu of the GRE. So that's the one exception to our GRE requirement. I just want to say again, there are no exceptions. And the reason for that is because we have returned to in-person teaching and there is an online option. People message us. I get at least 5 messages a day asking for an exception to the GRE, and we cannot make exceptions to the GRE unless it is that MCAT. People often ask us what the scores are that are required for the GRE, so I'll go over those with you all. These are averages. They are not the lowest or the top. They are truly the middle average of all of our students who were accepted into the program. Verbal is 162, quantitative is 163, and analytic is 4.5. The next piece here is the TOEFL and the IELTS. It is required for international students. Again, no exceptions. The minimum scores for the TOEFL are 100 and for the IELTS is 6.5. If you have questions about the TOEFL or IELTS, that requirement is set by the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, not by the PhD in Population Health Sciences. So any questions about the TOEFL or the IELTS should be directed to GSAS admissions. Interviews are not required, but some do occur at the faculty or field of study request. If those are requested of you, they will be virtual and they will be requested after our December 1st deadline. We do not interview in advance of the December 1st deadline. Finally, you may reach out to faculty of interest, but it's not required, and we do not facilitate it from our PHS office. It is up to you. You can find a listing of our faculty within each field of study or on our website for population health sciences. If you are looking to find out which students have worked with specific faculty on specific projects, we also on our website under current students and alumni have a listing of all 180 plus dissertations, the student's name, which field of study, the title, and their faculty advisor. So that may provide a key into where your interest lies or whose faculty work might be of interest to you. Let me make sure I've covered everything. All right, Charlie, I'm ready for you. Thank you. So what makes our PHS program so special? In 2014, our faculty and administration came together and thought, you know, the work that most PhDs are doing is great and it's very intensely focused on one area, but we think that silos are not the way to go anymore. And we would like to create a PhD program that expands what people are doing in their individual fields, as well as provides a cohort of people to move through this process with them. So we are a PhD program that is overall universal, but grounded in 5 interdisciplinary fields of study. Those 5 fields are environmental health, epidemiology, global health and population, nutrition, and social and behavioral sciences. We leverage our curriculum across those departments and disciplines, as well as across all of the schools at Harvard. One of the nice things as a PhD student at Harvard is that you have access to coursework in all 13 Harvard schools, whether that's the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, Harvard Chan School, the medical school, the business school, the design school, the education school. You can take courses and cross-register into any one of those schools' courses. In addition to that, you can also take courses at Brown, MIT, or Tufts without any extra cost or any extra need for you to do anything else other than cross-register for those courses. And we also make it easy. There's a bus that runs from our campus in Boston at Harvard Chan to Cambridge for the Harvard main campus. And in the middle, the stop is the front door of MIT. So we want you to expand your opportunities and to take courses across many, many fields, in addition to the work that you'll be doing at the Harvard Chan School. One other note for you, although our students are considered Graduate School of Arts and Sciences students as PhDs, most of your time is spent at the Harvard Chan School and taking courses at the Harvard Chan School in these 5 departments, as well as our health policy department. One of the things we're really proud of, and I'll talk about this in our statistics a little bit later, is our diverse student body. With all of the experience that they come from, we're really proud of our diversity and what that brings to our program. And the rest, I think, are pretty self-evident for you there on the list, so I won't go into too much detail, other than to say that we are located in the medical school, the Longwood medical area of Boston. So you have access to top tier hospitals and the opportunity to work with those while you're here as well. Charlie, thank you. And here's the best part. We are a fully funded PhD program. Every student, whether they are from the US, a permanent resident, or international, comes into the program fully funded. That funding is not attached right now to a specific faculty member. So when you come in, you are fully funded by either training grants or through your field of study or through school funds. The package includes all tuition and fees, health insurance, an option for dental insurance, and a monthly stipend of $4,083 per month, including the summers. Your stipend is contiguous from the September you enter through the May of the 4th year of the program, including summers, including our winter break month in January. How is it $4,083, you ask? It's $49,000 plus a transportation and dental subsidy of $1,000 a year. That subsidy is for you to decide how you like to spend it. We don't mandate it. You could use it toward a subway pass. You could use it for bike rental. You could use it for your dental subsidy. You could use it for renting a car if you wanted to go somewhere and do research and use the car. We don't mandate that, but it is offered to you 2 points during the year. The other part that makes our program special is that we offer you opportunities for extra paid work. So above and beyond that stipend of $4,083 a month, you can act as a TF or a research assistant at the school and be paid for that work on top of the stipend amount and the tuition and fee charge. So that is your opportunity. We realize Boston is not an easy place to live financially, so we give you that opportunity to do these things and earn some extra cash if you need to, and we welcome you the opportunity to do that. Next is we also offer a zero-cost master's along the way in either biostatistics or epidemiology. A lot of our students take advantage of this biostatistics master's along the way, especially because there's a lot of overlap in the coursework that our students do as part of their core in their fields of study. You can also receive a master's along the way from other departments or schools at the university. So we have a few students who've gotten their master's from the statistics department at the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, or the engineering in the Paulson School of Engineering in the engineering department. And then finally, we offer incentives for outside grant funding. So while we do fully fund our students for tuition fees, health insurance, and stipend, if a student comes to the school with a grant, then we offer incentive for that grant of up to $4,000 per year, depending on the amount of the grant that you bring into the program. I will stress for you, however, that that is not one of the ways that we evaluate our students when they apply to the program and decide on our admissions. Charlie. Fast facts. All right, we have over 700 applications per year. That number is especially true since the COVID-19 pandemic, when a few of our years have been over 800. Last year was our largest application pool. We had 865 people apply for what is our typical cohort size, which is 42 students. We admit 42 students a year across our 5 fields of study. In the environmental health department, we accept 9 students. In the epidemiology department, we accept 14 students. Global health and population, 6 students. Nutrition, 5 students. And social and behavioral sciences, 8 students. And if you're thinking, oh, well, I'll apply to one of the opportunities that have more students admitted, that's not necessarily how it works, because the size of the students admitted into a fields cohort actually reflect the number of applications in most cases that apply to the cohort in a given year. We have students and alumni from over 35 countries at any given time. About 40% of our students are international students. Prior degrees, the breakout is about 10% come with a bachelor's only and some experience, 85% with a master's and or some work experience, and then 5% come with their MD or enrolled in an MD PhD program. Our matriculant age range is 22 to 45. That goes as high as 60 years old in past cohorts. So we don't, we're very proud of this number and the range, but we don't put any requirements, obviously, on what age we accept to the program. We have 184 current PHS students in years 1 through 5 in the program, and we've actually graduated 186. So we are right now 8 years into the program at stasis, and now that number will start to go up for alumni, but remain the same at about 180 for our current students at any given time. And we are the 5th largest of 57 Harvard PhD programs, which we're also especially proud of. Thank you, Charlie. A typical course of study for population health sciences will be your field and PHS requirements, including our core quantitative methods course that all of our first-year students go through. The second year is field of study and research focused coursework, where you really dig deep in your field that you've chosen and been admitted into, and then ending with your qualifying examinations. Those first 2 years are on site and on campus at Harvard. There are no exceptions to that. We do not offer a virtual coursework method for our students in the first 2 years. After you pass your qualifying examinations, our students often go out and do research and data collection, as well as dissertation and defense in year 4, and those can be off-site. The dissertations are either in person, by Zoom, or in a hybrid format, depending on what the student and their advisor choose. And then finally, we require a teaching fellowship or research assistantship to a 12.5 credit equivalent, which is typically 2.5 courses that you do for credit. And then after that, you can start earning on your teaching assistant, research assistancy and teaching fellowships as you please. And then finally, our last slide. Please scan these 2 codes for more information if we can make it easier for you. The first one is our PhD website. The second one is the application website for the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. And again, if you are looking to find out what prior graduates have done in the program, you can go to our current students and alumni section, and it will list out all of the dissertations. And then we would encourage you strongly to check out our FAQs on the website. We answer a lot of the questions that we typically get questions for in our email inbox. But if you do need to message us, please reach out to us at phdphs@hsph.harvard.edu. And thank you all for your time.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bruce. And I will put the contact information up at the very end of the session too. So if you don't have a second now to write this down or scan things, do not fear. So with that, let me advance to my next slide, and let's invite our panelists to turn on their cameras. These are students that are enrolled in the PHS PhD program or our DrPh track. And I'm going to stop sharing my slides so we can all see each other and see each other's faces. And so thank you to those participants today that have been typing in questions along the way. I'm going to take a closer peek at some of those questions now that we're in the Q&A session, but I know we might have answered some along the way already, which is great. But feel free to keep those questions rolling in. But to kick us off, let's do some introductions with our panelists today so we can get a sense of who they are, what some of their interests are, and introduce them to the greater group. So with that, panelists, if you wouldn't mind sharing briefly where you're from, your academic background, and then the degree program you're enrolled in, just to give a sense of our attendees who's all joining today. And why don't we start with Tabor? Would you like to go first?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to see if I can remember the order of the things that you just said. Hi, I'm Tabor. I use he, him pronouns. I am a first-year PhD student in the Population Health Sciences program with a concentration in epidemiology and a track within the psychiatric epi concentration. And I'm from Williamsburg, Virginia, though before coming to Boston for my master's degree, I spent about 4 years in California. And my interests are mostly looking at sort of the impact of structural policy environments on mental health and other forms of health among LGBT populations.
Excellent, thank you. Parker, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name's Parker. I use she, her pronouns. I'm also going to try and remember the order of this. I'm in the PhD PHS program, first year PhD student in the epi concentration and in cancer epidemiology and specifically. And I'm from the United States, but I was coming here from Canada actually for my undergrad and master's. So to any international applicants, I can answer maybe some questions. I am kind of substantively interested in causal inference in cancer research. And are those all the qualifiers?
Yep, that's great. Thank you. All right. Rosie, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Rosie, and I'm also going to try and remember the sequence of things. I'm a recent, I recently defended my thesis in August in the DrPh program. Thank you so much, guys. I'm originally from New York City, but I have been living in Boston, south of Boston. And my thesis was on early childhood and early intervention in Mississippi. And just started a new job this week. So it's been a little bit crazy. So it's different from what I did my thesis on, and but very similar to the technical skills that I had picked up in my master's program. And then also the courses that I took at the Harvard School of Public Health.
Excellent. Thank you. And congratulations.
Thank
Yuchen, would you like to go next?
Yes, for sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Yu Chen, and I am a first-year PhD student in the Population Health Science program with my field of study in global health and population. And my research interests are in aging. And I'm originally from China, but I have been in the US for past 10 years, and specifically in Boston for past 7 to 8 years-ish. And before coming here, I did clinical research in one of the affiliated hospital here, and also I got my Master of Science from the Chan School of Public Health.
Excellent. Thank you. And last but not least, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name, Olay, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ule Ndoye. I am a third-year DrPh student, and I'm originally from the Hudson Valley region of upstate New York. I moved to Harvard from Atlanta, where I've spent a good part of my life as well. And areas of interest, right? My areas of interest are migration, history, child and maternal health, which I did the certificate for here at Harvard Chan, and international affairs generally as it pertains to migrant health. And I'll just add for anyone who has questions in this area, I'm also president of the Parents at Chan Association this year, which Rosie is also a board member of. And so we'd be happy to answer questions on or offline regarding moving here with the family.
Absolutely. Yes, and thank you. So as I mentioned, I have a few questions to kick us off now that we've done introductions, but feel free to keep questions coming in the Q&A box and we'll get to as many as we can. But to kick us off, a little context for the group, us in the admissions office, we get a lot of questions from prospective students who know they want doctoral level training, but they're not sure if they want to really focus on a PhD route or a DrPh route. And I'm wondering if our panelists could talk a little bit more about their decision-making process and why they ultimately chose a PhD or DrPh. And I'll just throw it to the group. So whoever might like to jump in, feel free to kick us off. Yes, Tabor, go ahead.
I would not have qualified for DrPh. I did not have that amount of work experience under my belt. I had focused on primarily research, and I think for me, my passion really is sort of like academic research. That's like where I land and sort of what I want to do, at least for the foreseeable future. So the choice was like very clear for me in terms of what I was qualified for and what I wanted to do with the degree afterwards. Yeah.
I guess I can jump in as a DrPh rep. So I have a little bit of maybe a different background, but actually there are a few other DrPh students who have a similar experience, whereas I was actually in a PhD program at another university about 10 years ago. And right around the time of like finishing coursework and having to do my doctoral research, I had some life changes and ended up working in government for quite a while at the state level and the city level. in the opposite order, city and then state. And I just found that like I really love academia. I do love teaching, and I've taught classes independently at colleges as like an adjunct, and I love that. But I think I also am really passionate about taking what I'm learning in the classroom and applying it to like real world problems that children face. For example, I did a lot of work with human trafficking prevention and rehabilitation, and my academic background helped me to contextualize the issues. But when it came down to like being in the field, proposing policy, really like touching the lives of kids directly in a more practical manner, I wanted some skill training in leadership. And this particular DrPh program really stood out to me because of the focus on emphasis on leadership training. Gary earlier mentioned the personal mastery course, which is like a very core component of our program that we start in July and it goes all the way till the following May. And we have coaching available in our first year and our third year to think about our professional experiences to date and where we hope to go next. And many of us come here at a juncture in our career where we've like done well, but we're thinking we might go a different route now, or we're ready for that next level promotion. And this program just really causes you to do some deep inner work and then think about how to apply the skills in your career when you re-enter the workforce. So to me, it was absolutely perfect, and I'm glad to have found out it existed.
I would just say as a PhD student, I had actually applied for one round previous, so one previous application cycle, and had contended with the DrPh and PhD question myself, even though I would not have had enough work experience to apply to this particular program. And looking at especially international programs distinguishing between DrPh and PhD, I found that, you know, it is a question of, okay, at this level, if you're applying, you want to be a leader or you already are a leader and want to enhance your skills and develop them in that way. So it's just kind of, who do you want to interact with on a daily basis and what types of questions do you want to answer, or be, you know, a part of answering? Because I think that that's what's special about the two programs conjointly, is that we kind of fill a very broad spectrum. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it was, I've done both and I'm attracted to both. So my background, my master's was in epi and biostats, and I had done a lot of research. So my current job is actually doing both, or a little bit of both, more research side. And I had worked at hospitals and NGOs and nonprofits. I've mainly worked with refugees and immigrants in Massachusetts, and I did some global health work. And my background is in technical, like I was a bio major. I had been interested in medical school for a while. So I felt like I had the leadership side where I had managed community health workers because I had been a community health worker. So I had a lot of practical experience for the last 2 decades. So it felt very appropriate to go into the DrPh program. And I loved, like Ule said, the leadership. It's like a mini business degree. It was very insightful. And, you know, you ask a lot of questions about yourself and how you manage. But I ended up also taking a lot of evaluation courses, and global health courses. And I did take a lot of courses at the Kennedy School and attended a lot of classes in the business and the business school and the education school. So I felt like it was the right thing for me to do the DrPh program, but I probably could have seen myself in both the PhD and the DrPh program.
Excellent.
And I guess
Yeah,
for
go
me,
ahead.
lastly, is I just want to say, actually, for the PhD program, like in my field of work, global health and population, we do have, I do have colleagues, peers who had years of experience, but even myself, I had working experience before, but I think it's more emphasis in the academic research, and just doing research and finding our own topic and working our own research that kind of tailored us to the PhD program. So that's one part I just want to add on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And before I ask my next question to the panelists, I'm doing a survey of the Q&A box, and I do see a theme of questions related to the funding opportunities for the DrPh programs. I know Bruce spoke to the PhD, so I'm going to invite Gary to pop on if you wouldn't mind answering some of those questions.
Yes, I saw a lot of those questions. So I figured, I think I should probably answer those, but in this setting. So this is how the funding works. We are not fully funded like the PhD program. The funding for us goes, you have the first 2 years of the program is 50% reduction in tuition. And that is based on need. And that means you have to fill out, I believe, the FAFSA form, and that goes to the Office of Financial Aid, and then they will make the decision on whether or not you will receive the 50% reduction. It is not 25%, it's not 30, it's all or nothing. So some of our, I think a good portion of our students actually do receive that 50% reduction in tuition. However, you still do need to supplement your funding. And also moving to Boston that's why I live in Rhode Island, but Boston is a little expensive. So that's where the other funding or fellowship opportunities may come in. I send those out ad nauseum to my students. I think Rosie and Ule can attest to that. I will also send out tons of teaching fellow or research assistant positions that are available by the school. So those are other ways in which you can try to supplement your tuition and living expenses while here in the DrPh program and within Boston. But it is only 50% reduction for the first 2 years of the program. They are still working on trying to increase that. And if there is an increase, it'll most likely only be for the first year, but they're still working on that.
Great. Thank you, Gary. And I will pivot back to the chat as well as some of the questions we have here. And I see a couple of questions related to career outcomes. So I know that some of our panelists spoke to some of their motivations for why they chose one program over another. And so I guess a question I'll pose to the group is, based on your understanding, how do career outcomes differ between those who pursue the DrPh program versus the PhD? Or in some cases, could there be overlap in what students do?
I think for the global health and population track, a lot of our students go, for sure, a lot of stay in academia. And the overlapping part is a lot of them decided to go to international organization, take leadership from World Health Organization, UN, World Bank. And I do know, or I did hear people go to private sector, but that's last proportion of students who choose to go to industry, I would say.
Yeah, probably Gary can answer it better than I can, but a lot of my cohort mates who have graduated, they've worked for the World Bank, WHO, nonprofits overseas. I'm working for a private organization right now called Verily Life Sciences, which is a moonshot of Google. And I'm doing a lot of similar work that I was doing before in terms of evaluation and monitoring and tracking and quantitative patient outcomes. But my cohort mates, some of them, especially the international students, so we were half and half. So our cohort had individuals who were doing cancer work, for example, working with indigenous populations. So they ended up working with larger organizations in those places like Canada or back in Cameroon or Nigeria. There's an entrepreneur in my cohort. So he's done a lot of work across Africa and a couple of countries in Latin America. And the funding varies, like for those organizations, like when you become an entrepreneur or you set up your own business, then, the funding is multilaterals and other organizations. But it really varies. I don't think I've heard like one story across, cohort 1 through 12, I believe, Gary, was telling us that cohort 12 is about to come on. I don't think, like I know, had conversations with the commissioner, someone, in Ethiopia who's doing a lot of work. Consulting is big, definitely, in the DrPh program. Think of anything else, guys, or Gary?
Yeah, I'll just add, since you're speaking on behalf of your cohort, let me speak on mine. So a few were international students already having jobs, for example, with international organizations like the ones that have been mentioned, UN, WHO, Gavi, and they've gone back for their third year project to their previous role, but perhaps in a more expanded, promoted role. One of our cohort mates, you saw the picture that Gary showed earlier where I visited the White House for a conference I helped plan as part of my summer Harvard Presidential Public Service Fellowship. And my cohort mate was recently appointed the director of the White House Office on National AIDS Policy. And so he had an amazing opportunity to serve in the Biden-Harris administration. And I was able to join him in planning a conference around HIV/AIDS in the Latin American community because I study migration. So there was some overlap there. And I'll just add, since that I'm speaking about that fellowship, that as DrPh students, Gary answered that we are not fully funded. So there are many fellowships at Harvard that you can apply for. And I've been pretty active in pursuing funding in those ways. So the Harvard Presidential Public Service Fellowship was a great opportunity to do service over the summer, and they provided funding. And then I received another fellowship from another center on the Cambridge side of the river that does international affairs research called the Weatherhead Center for focusing on migration. Actually just presented a couple hours ago there today as a part of the fellowship. And so there are many, many opportunities depending on your area of interest, but it is, it is time consuming to apply for additional funding. And that is a factor. It's something I thought about a lot, and Gary knows I'm always bringing it up. Pay it forward for the next cohorts. But I will say that one of the things I calculated in my decision was that potentially the DrPh program can be shorter, although many people do take 4 years and many PhD students are able to finish in 4 years. So there is that overlap in time. But I would say probably the majority, the DrPh program, you can finish in 3 years, and most PhD students that I've talked to, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but seem to take 5 years. So doing the math, I was like, if I can get back to the workforce a year or two earlier, the amount that I'll make versus the amount that I may have to take out in loans could kind of wash out. So it's a very personal decision. It's not one to take lightly. But I think for those who are further along in their careers, taking too much time away from work can be a big sacrifice as well. And a lot of jobs won't hold your position for more than, a year and a half to 2 years. So a lot of variables at play. Very personal decision for sure.
Excellent. Thank you all. Looking in the chat, I see a couple of questions, people wondering if there are possibilities to work during your programs and what that looks like. And some of you maybe have touched on that a little bit. I think the one person in the chat wants to know if it's possible to work full-time, but I will expand that question as to how are you all engaged with work, if at all? Are you teaching, research, other things, nothing at all? Can you give our group a sense of how you fill your time outside of the classroom?
I can start. Yeah, so this is my first. We just finished exams for our first quarter of the first year. Well, I did in Parker too, but of the first quarter of the first year of the program. So I think this will likely change over time. But my experience has been so far that adjusting and getting acclimated to the classwork and the climate at Chan and the speed and the pace of the coursework, I don't think I could have worked more than maybe 5 hours a week. And I chose not to do that because thankfully there's access to this funding package. However, in order to maintain progress in my publishing portfolio, over the winter, I'm planning on doing research. Over the summer, I'm planning on doing research. And I suspect as time continues, and especially after qualifying exams, research, which might be paid, it will take up like a larger and larger proportion of my time. And in terms of doing work that isn't research, like in my master's program, I did a lot of like student facing work, and like had a couple jobs that like weren't necessarily like research oriented. I think I would be open to those like in future years, but I think for at least like this first semester, my experience was that it would have been impossible for me. Yeah.
And in general, for the PhD program, you can substitute, I think Bruce had mentioned, RA-ships for TA-ships for credit, and then you can also elect to have certain independent study, or sorry, like RA-ships for pay rather than credit. And depending on the data sources that you'll be working with, you can also get additional pay through other funding sources. Like for me, I'll be working with some government data that would additionally pay me as a student as I'm working on these, without having to formally, claim those as jobs. So it kind of depends on the context, your research, and what you're working with.
And I can also speak a little bit about the international students part. We do have a limitation for working less than 17 hours per week. And I'm not sure how it worked with Parker, like for the one you just talked about, but normally we can get other positions through Harvard or Harvard affiliated institution or hospitals. So I do have 3 research assistant positions this year, but those are also like, because I did my master here and I worked in those hospital before, so it's like a continuation of whatever I did. So it kind of, all of them added up to around probably 5 to 15 hours per week, depending on the week.
So I think Ule did a fabulous job of speaking about the smattering of different things that we do to survive in the DrPh program. So I was one of the crazy ones that did work full time, and took on, 5 classes, like during when we first got there, and it's anywhere between 3 to 4 hours a day. So it was very, very rough. I think for folks who are interested in the DrPh program and you have a family, children, individuals that you're caring for, unfortunately, we just don't have a choice. We have to work, and especially if you're living in Boston and paying a mortgage or rent. So many of my cohort mates, and also across the cohorts, they gave us different ideas, including like teaching fellowships. So I also taught and worked full-time. I think the difference in terms of working full-time though, or even part-time or half-time, is you have to be able to have a flexible and adaptable schedule. And I did. If you don't have that, if your employer is not willing to work with you, that is not an option for you. And I did hear that from some of my cohort mates who tried that and unfortunately had to, leave their jobs. Some of my fellow cohort mates and also across the cohorts have heard of fellowship. So I did get a fellowship for the Mississippi work that I did. Many of the folks that I know have done consultancy, so they'll take on different projects or quantitative analysis. I had one cohort mate who was doing a consultancy in New York, and another one who was teaching online, actually at a university, was able to pick up a couple of classes that way. Board of directors, signing on to or at least the boards that will pay you something, that goes a long way, towards food expenses or rent, or just getting around transportation. If you, like Ule had mentioned, if you live in Atlanta or, Baltimore or something like that, factoring in the fact that you want to be able to get home. So I know individuals who were flying out of Boston on a weekly basis to go back and spend time with their family, or another person was from Jamaica, so they did put that as part of their budget, being able to get back home to their children or family members. So I think professors or international students, they stayed connected to NGOs, so that's another way that they were able to do some they didn't call it consultancies necessarily, but they either like went down to halftime to be able to do their courses. Some of my cohort mates and others. One person, you know, who I spoke about, who's an entrepreneurial, like he handed some of the bigger responsibilities to the second in command and was able to continue to get a salary from, you know, having started that company. But at the very least, like did less than was required, unfortunately. He wanted to do more, but he couldn't do it because he also had a family responsibilities. And there's a few people that I know, the last thing that I can think off the top of my head, who came in with amazing opportunities, like through the CDC, for example. And there's others who their work said, go and get this degree, we will pay for it, and we will hold your job for, you know, 2 years, and then you come back. And some of them came back. We will, you know, like fund you fully, and then you have to come back and work, you know, for, you know, 2 years with us. So I know at least 2 people who did that, and one of them worked for the CDC.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that really briefly, because I think Rosie really covered everything I was thinking. I would just say so my personal background with work and this program is that I had an LLC already that I'd established years before I came here. So I had a few clients that I continued with, but I'll be very transparent. The first year of this program is extremely intense if you do not come in with an MPH, or if your MPH was so long ago that Harvard won't waive certain classes like biostatistics and epidemiology and a few other methods courses that can really take a lot of time. And so I really I didn't bill many hours at all in my first year. Like at a point I said, you know what, I choose sanity and health over money, and I'm going to take these student loans and I'll cross that bridge later, because I really just wanted to be present in the academic experience because that's what I came for. And, you know, again, trade-offs and personal choices. But in my second year in the DrPh program, we are very fortunate to be able to cross-register, and we're encouraged to explore other parts of Harvard. So I really took that all the way. I took a class at the education school, the Kennedy School, the business school. I think that's it. So I was really running around the different places throughout the semester of my second year, the first semester of my second year, and the second semester. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's amazing. Like, public health is interdisciplinary. Each Harvard school has very different cultures and pedagogies, and I gained a lot from that. And so again, I made the trade-off that I'm not going to pursue billable hours this year in order to experience Harvard, because you get 2 or 3 years here tops to take classes, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I wanted to leave with as much, like, soaking it in as much as possible. So that's how the approach I took with it.
Absolutely. And it does go by so fast, whether you're in a multi-year program or even if folks are just doing our 1-year master's. So it goes by. Recognizing that we are sort of at time here, I don't know if any of our panelists have to jump off, but I do want to pose one last question to the group if folks have a few more minutes. And really, you know, as students are attending the virtual visit week, they are learning a lot of pieces of information about the school, programs, culture, community. And obviously there are so many PhD and DrPh programs around the country and around the world. So what's a final piece of advice you would give to someone as they are navigating this complex world of graduate school? Maybe something you wish you would have known, or just a piece of advice that you might give folks today.
I mean, I went through this process twice, and so I had to hone kind of my idea of what I was going for my second year in applying. And I realized the first time around, I had oriented myself towards applying as I want to find a school who will take me. And the second time around, I realized, no, I need to find the school that will be able to get me where I want to be. And that will guide every decision that you make, like how much time you spend looking into potential supervisors, really looking into the coursework that you want to take, because these things do matter in the day-to-day. So and like speak to students at programs to, you know, like us to find out more information, because they will kind of give you that big picture of what is this going to give you, but then also in the day-to-day, who are you going to be around and engaging with.
I would say do a lot of research, read everything on the website, of course, but reach out to people and really connect, because every university has its own culture, priorities, unspoken norms. And I think finding the right fit for something this challenging is really important, because you're going to need community and support, and to find people that you connect with, fellow students. Um, you know, visit if you can, sit in on a class. Yeah, just really get a sense for the feeling of it. Like, do I feel comfortable here? Is this a place where I feel like I can think and thrive? This was the only program I applied to when I decided I wanted to finish out and do a doctorate. And I decided on it after years of stalking the website and really like just thinking about it. Finally, I attended this very session actually, and reached out to some of the people that I met that day. And it just became clear. I was like, I really want to do this. And then I didn't apply, and I waited another year. And when I did, I was like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. But I really like, I think this is the right fit. So I think to Parker's point, like doing that research and coming at it from a perspective of like, is this a fit for me? And what do I want to get out of it? And can this program support my ultimate goals is a great way to go about it.
To that, I think those are perfect answers. And the only thing I'll add is I think one very specific component of what these two just spoke about would be mentorship, like identifying a specific person, or better yet, a set of people at the university who you think would be able to really support you as like a growing scholar, and like reaching out to people, getting to know what they say about their mentorship style. If you can, talking to existing mentees of those people and trying to hear what they say about the person's mentorship style. That gets into kind of nitty-gritty, and it's sometimes not possible to have that level of access to people at any given school that you're applying to. But if you can, I think the relationship between mentor and mentee, at least for the PhD program, I'm assuming for DrPh as well, is like a critical component of how well you'll adapt to the program and, you know, whether your goals will be met. So I would really emphasize the mentorship component.
And don't be afraid to reach out just because you think that like they're too famous or something, because that made me hesitate in reaching out, but I finally did, and it all worked out. I'm here. So yeah.
And I think for me, it echo a lot of what our other panelists already shared, but I do want to say I think it's really, really important to find the program and the mentor that really fits you. And for us, for the PhD, is finding the mentor and finding the environment that they're doing the research that you're really interested in. That's our very important component. And also, since I did my master here and I reflected back on the time I did my master and thought about what I could have done better since I have more years here, I always thought about that the part is about connecting with people here. I think during my master time, I really spent a lot of time just doing my own research and studying, but people here, everyone just has an amazing story. Even today, sitting here listening to other panelists, I feel like, oh, I learned so much from them. They really had a story for how they got here, what they did for their lives. That's a part I always that for now I hope I can do more, is really connecting with people. And here at Harvard, there's so many resources and so many different opportunities. So that's a part, once you got in, just open the door for you to reach out to alumni, to all the different programs here. So that part, I think it's something that what makes Harvard unique.
Yeah, I definitely have to say, like, back to what I had mentioned before, I just didn't know which one I wanted to do, and a PhD or the DrPh program. And lucky for me that I did almost at the deadline, like put in for the DrPh program. There were only 2 programs in Massachusetts. And I really, because of, personal reasons, my family, I needed to stay in Massachusetts. And I ended up not applying to the other program, which was interesting. And it was through a conversation with someone else. I think someone else may have mentioned, reach out to those students and find out about their experiences. And I didn't love what they were saying to me. It just didn't, I don't know, it dissuaded me from applying to that specific program. So the Harvard one was the only one that I did apply to. But no regrets, the experience itself, let alone even like being at the end. And it's really crazy, but it goes a long way, like getting a degree at the Harvard School of Public Health. It does wonders. It opens doors that, I don't take for granted at all. And being able to defend and then less than 2 months later, getting a job is just fantastic. So I feel like a lot of the skills, courses, experiences, having gone through the thesis, and the experience of that, research and being able to connect with the professors as well, you will have that support, that network. I mean, it was worth it for me. Now looking back, in the last 3 years, like what did it get me? It got me this whole network. It got me a lot of fun events. Thank you, Gary. Which, I get to still attend, bowling and, like panel, all kinds of fun things that, we do as a DrPh family, cohorts 1 through 12. So that's another thing that whether you're borrowing money or, paying for your degree or getting, other resources, you get that when you come into a program like this or the PhD program, like those lifelong connections, professional and personal, are pretty amazing. And I have friends all over the world now, people in South Africa who come in, and visit with me, and then I'm planning to visit them. So, so it's really, I really appreciated my experiences and I don't regret my decision.
Wonderful. Well, a huge thank you to all of our panelists. I'm going to ask our panelists if you wouldn't mind turning off your camera for now, and I'm going to share some final contact information for today, as promised. So first off, a huge thank you to everyone for joining us today, our panelists, our staff, as well as our prospective students. Hopefully today was at least helpful in pointing you in the right direction as to the different programs we offered and hearing some of the current student experiences. I do have to apologize. I didn't get to every single question in the chat, but you are welcome to be in touch with us in the admissions office or to the respective program, depending on the nature of your question. And then also, I'm going to pop a link into the chat that this is a survey for our virtual visit week. So, we're always looking to have programming like this or programming that's of interest to you based on what it is you'd like to know about the school, different fields of study, things of that nature. So getting feedback on the content of today's session as well as other sessions throughout the week is really meaningful for us. So with that, I'm Charlie again from the Harvard Chan School Admissions Office. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, signing off from Boston. Bye-bye, everyone.